Why do you build a large open fiber network?
You mean in Singapore?
Yes.
I believe, yes. So in Singapore, we built the large open fiber network as a way to create more opportunities for companies to offer more competitive broadband services to consumers, businesses, and also to be a platform for innovation for ICT going forward. So I think that's why we built large, wide-scale, open fiber platforms.
And how you do it, just overview?
So you mean for the current Singapore deployment?
Yes.
So I think in 2006, the country was at a turning point. We had used copper for many years to deliver broadband, but that was reaching the limit of its technological capabilities. So when the time came for us to invest in a fiber or glass network, we wanted to do it differently from before. We wanted it to be open. We didn't want it to be operator owned. So as a result, the government put out 1 or 2 tenders to invite operators that are willing to subscribe to open access. And from there, we awarded and they rolled out the network actually. So the network became open. It's subject to special regulatory rules on pricing, on availability to every retail service provider or operating company. So that's the way we did it. Yeah.
Well, this way to do it is quite unique if you're looking in the world. What was the argument for and reasons for a politician to take that step? Because in many cities and countries you have incumbent who tends to do it.
So it's actually a blend of different ways. So if you look at, for example, Japan or Korea, where they have actually asked the incumbent to roll out fiber. And I think I'm not sure whether they subsidize them in that way, but in those countries, these companies were the best place to do it, right? Because they are the most capable, right? They have been doing it for longest. And then we have countries like Sweden, Stockholm in particular, who say, no, we would like a different company from the operators to do it, but they will offer their fiber to the operators. So we saw the two, and we wanted to blend it because we wanted the speed. We wanted it to come out fast, but we also wanted it to be open access. So that's why we decided we will not only have a contract, but as part of the contract, they will ascribe to certain regulatory requirements. So that is how we ended up with the blended approach. We actually studied many countries, and we thought maybe we can put these two together. Maybe the last unique point is, of course, IDA is not just a regulator. It is both a regulator and industry developer. So from that perspective, I think we were able to put this deal together with the support of our political leadership, because their support was needed to, of course, obtain the funding, as well as to, in a way, help us engage the operators for them to cooperate and to participate.
And the incumbent, Singtel, was happy with the solution?
We made it open for everyone to come in if they were interested. So it is difficult to say whether they were happy or not from the commercial perspective, because for commercial entities, it's about whether they make money. So I think currently, Singtel is still making money. So I'm not sure why they would be necessarily unhappy. Of course, there's a lot more other people making money, but most importantly for government is that we think the model is sustainable and is also benefiting our consumers significantly. So on the whole, we are optimistic about the future development of this platform. Yeah.
Now, running the network for many years, the benefits, what type of benefits do you see?
So, well, first is IDA doesn't run the network ourselves. We have contracted it out to 2 or 3 other entities who will run it. In terms of benefits, I think having nationwide, at a dark fiber level, access to communication backbone, I think would help many companies. And the reach of the network is for the entire island. So any applications and services can run on this network should it choose to. And also the rules that we put in place for OpenNet, the company that's running dark fiber, will allow any provider to use it. So I think the limit of the benefits would be endless, but until you have your next medium, yes. And in terms of how they can use it, of course, today it is for, say, residential or commercial. That means your typical broadband services. But going forward, we hope to see more benefits to IoT, Internet of Things, more sensors, for example, helping government to do service delivery better, and any other kind of things that require communications, even small cells, for example. Yeah.
Yeah. And there's a future. What's next step?
So I mentioned during the conference that I think our Deputy Prime Minister recently, Taman, announced another scheme to help the broadband reach more businesses. So IDEA will be working on that. We'll be working on the scheme and trying to help to connect all the commercial and non-residential premises to the NBN and other fiber services. So that is the first thing we're doing. And of course, as a backbone for communications, there are many public agencies that can still use OpenNet and NBN more vigorously or more actively. So we are still going to be continuing there to talk to them. And then in relation to smart cities, where sensors and being able to pull back the data into the agencies is very important, we also will see about what's the right infrastructure to put in place so that sensors can be deployed more efficiently and catalyze smart cities developments going forward.
What is the best experience you want to share or advice you would give others to sit? Yeah, so interesting to develop to try to have a better broadband in this country or in cities.
I think it's difficult to offer one kind of advice to potentially many recipients because every country's challenges are different. I suppose one thing is that the business model must work because the technology is already there today. So the business model must work. For the business model to work, you also may need the right regulation and the right regulatory environment because companies are willing to put in investment, I think, given the right environment. And also the regulator, after it starts on a particular environment, it must continue to adjust the regulation going forward to ensure that companies are willing to invest in the infrastructure. So so as you can tell, there is no one simple fix-all advice that we can give, except that I think the role of the incumbent is critical, and I think what we try to do is not to make it a combative relationship. I think if it's combative, it's very tough because while they are in it for the profits, I think they also can understand the government has our own objectives. The regulator has to be flexible and it has to know exactly what it's trying to do because it may require the change of current regulatory perspectives. And lastly, the politicians also must come in, right? Because they represent the need, the interests of the consumers, and they can help push by acquiring, say, government funding, or just acquiring public support for some of the initiatives. So I think if the 3 or 4 things can align, it would be quite helpful to enable these infrastructure. I have to assume that for the consumers, because not many consumers, maybe the Swedish are different, but not many consumers can dig their own fiber, right? So their role is a bit limited, but nonetheless, I think they play an important role in pushing all 3 parties to say that we have a need. You must help us fulfill that need. Yeah. So that is roughly it. Yeah.
Last question. When I come back home, what do you tell about this trip to Sweden?
Okay. So I think one thing I realized is that after we came to Sweden last time, that was 2006 or 7, and we learned about Stokab, dark fiber, and all that. And then we got very busy, right? Because we went home and said we're going to do this, we roll out. And the next time I saw you was maybe 2011, 2012. But I was just talking to people in Stokab, but you guys are not staying still either. I think you guys are also looking at new ways to make revenue for Stokab, to make sure that the company is sustainable going forward. And I think on that, we can do better. So I mean, our retail providers, our opcos and netcos, can still, I think, look at models from other countries and try to see if those services are, applicable for them. I think the point that Benoit made about how operators see providing services as a point by point may not be so appropriate going forward, given how the nature of the connective service is going to be delivered. I mean, today when I buy a service, I buy a wired connection, a wireless connection, and maybe a Wi-Fi connection, right? Wireless and maybe mobile. Why is it that way? Can it not be one platform? I mean, if I'm going to consume bandwidth here, and here, the thing is, maybe I only need one place at one time. Maybe you could sell me one plan rather than many plans. Likewise for businesses, if they want to connect 20 locations for their own mobile or mobility services or some sort of position-based service, do I charge them for all 20 points, or should it be a package, right? And what kind of package makes sense? What kind of business? I think the business model and the service innovation has to continue. If not, I think there are limits to how maybe the current perception of services ought to be delivered will serve the needs of people going forward. Yeah. So I think we have still much to learn from Sweden, from Stokab.